Well, I'm pretty sure everyone listening is not going to want you to stop talking, but we'll be nice and welcome in Agent Confidential to the program.
Hey, Mr. Chaudron, how are you today?
Hey, Kip. Good morning, John, and happy birthday to Case.
Hey, yeah, this is a big day for us. Kip Keefer, who is a game changer for me for sure, just 39 short years ago today on August the 8th.
That is just fantastic. So I hope you guys have a big celebration once the sun comes up out there in Nevada. So hey, a lot happened this week around the Protect College Sports Act. Early in the week, we had the SEC and Big Ten on board and getting them on board. So remember at Big Ten Media Days, Tony Petitti said when he came to the stand, he said he talked to Greg Sankey this morning, 5 times before breakfast. And I think, clearly they were already negotiating on this. So I think that's pretty fascinating that, it just shows, Kip, just how much leverage the SEC and Big Ten have in this and that Congress needed to make, concessions to get them on board for this legislation.
That's for sure. And I just used the word game changer. That was the quote from Ted Cruz, the senator from Texas, of course, Mike, last week when the endorsement came down from the Big Ten and the SEC, and I'm sure you've got some of the aspects of how they made that happen because there had to have been major concessions. But that's just to emphasize your point. That's how huge that endorsement of that legislation was because Ted Cruz called it a game changer, quote unquote, and there was no way that was going to advance without the 2 biggest entities in the sport signing off on it.
No doubt about it. So, the SEC and Big Ten got really 3 things. They protected their television money. So nobody's going to force them into the Cody Campbell pooled media rights. They protected their flexibility around conference expansion, and then they got stronger rules around NIL. So, Congress came to them, and they know that they needed them. But to me, Kip, what really the big news started happening yesterday when a lot of things happened around the bill. The bill did not get voted on. It's been moved out to September. And then you had, to me, the really interesting thing is Florida Senator Ashley Moody has added an amendment. And what that would do is would give every Power 4 school a 180-day window to reconsider its conference future. And that blows me away because you give every Power 4 school a 180-day window to reconsider its future, man, you are creating 180 days of utter chaos in the middle of the season because schools are going to say, hey, we thought about moving. Let's see who's going to move. We got to move now because we've only got 180 days or we're going to wait 5 years. To me, that's massive. And I'm not sure that can get through, but good heavens.
Yeah, and the whole idea of this is to take the chaos away, which is still raging all the time. I've heard about 3 different players this week going back to schools after going to NFL tryout camps and combines, and now you can just make a financial decision. If you used to be, if you even uttered the phrase NFL, your eligibility was gone, but now it's just another career option.
It's just incredible. And then, at the same time, you had the AFL-CIO express their opposition, as did the Black Congressional Caucus. So if you think about it, the more Congress tries to create one rule book for college sport, everybody shows up wanting to put their own page in the rule book. And it's just going to be fascinating. I mean, September is going to be really interesting. And apparently the vote is scheduled. But, boy, there's just a lot of moving pieces here and different interests that's going to make September really interesting to see what happens with this legislation.
That's for sure. Mike, I've maintained, and I think you and I have talked about it, I just don't see it being possible for this congressional breakthrough and the Save College Sports Act. I just don't think one size fits all. That's been my problem with it from the beginning. the smaller institutions, the non-power leagues, there's so many different entities, so many different ranges of sports. To have this be a blanket fix for all college athletics, to me, is just completely impractical. I don't want to be a pessimist, but I don't see a government solution. Like Ronald Reagan says, the worst words in the English language is, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
And here, exactly. And the coalition is just getting downright messy, Kip. I mean, with the AFL-CIO, you've got Republican senators pushing back, including one from the great state of Alabama. You've got the Congressional Black Caucus. You've got the conferences. I mean, everybody is scrambling here. I certainly would like to see the group text between Ted Cruz, Cody Campbell, and maybe a private equity firm here or there to see what's going on right now, because it is not what they intended it to be. But I'm not surprised in the least, because it still comes down to the governance. Yep. I mean, who's going to be in charge? And it looks like the College Sports Commission will end up with some of the power, but still, how are they going to do this? I mean, Congress is not going to come in and act when a school, does something wrong with NIL or tampering. So to me, it's still just a big mess around the governance and still trying to figure out who's in charge.
Mike, speak to me to the issue, because we keep hearing private equity, and you just mentioned it. I saw that there was a big, the governor of Louisiana called in all the biggest money people at LSU this week, and a couple of them were coming with a big deal, supposedly to bring a private investor in, quote unquote, private equity money. And the governor immediately said, "We're not going to do that. We're not going to cede control of our program." Which I always love Louisiana too, because there the governor is the de facto athletic director of the football program, which is an interesting twist. But speak to private equity and it's in some circles it's the great savior. I know Utah just signed a big private equity deal. There's been pushes in the Big Ten from their commissioner for the entire league to take on a private equity identity. Speak to the pluses and minuses, and why the people that are appalled by the idea. Is it just the control issue that because in this day and age it seems like raising money is the whole game?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And chapter 24 of the book is Follow the Money, and it is about private equity. And in it, I make the case that private equity is not evil, private equity is not good, it's opportunistic. And what private equity simply is looking for is returns. The thing that's interesting about college football is private equity, when they look at different industries, they look for inefficiencies. And what they saw with college football was inefficiencies around scheduling, around contracts with media, around the stodgy government of schools trying to run a multi-billion-dollar enterprise like it is a public university. So private equity saw that particular opportunity. The interesting thing, and you mentioned Utah, another thing that Utah has done is created a limited liability corporation for possibly their athletics. Because if you think about it, private equity is looking for equity to get returns. Well, you can't take an equity stake in a state institution. What you can take, though, is pieces of their media rights. And that's what's at the core of all of this, is that private equity is coming in and looking for opportunities to take a piece of the media rights. The Big 12 signed a deal with Redbird Capital that would have given a $30 million loan to each of the Big 12 schools at 10% interest plus part of their media rights. So, again, it's not evil, it's not bad, but they're in it for the money, man. They see an opportunity here, and the governance is a big part of it. I mean, again, it's the only billion-dollar business out there that you can't tell anybody who the CEO is. So that's that's what private equity is looking for, is they're looking for returns. And one other thing about private equity, they come in with the exit already planned. They've modeled this out. That's how private equity works. They don't take bets. They make plans. And that's what's really fascinating about all of this, to see what happens. But that's probably more than you wanted to know about private equity. But with my experience, that's what I've seen with private equity. Not good, not bad, but they're in it for the money, man.
Well, we got to ask you this question before we let you get out of here, Agent Confidential, because you are, and I want to give you an opportunity to tell folks where they can find your outstanding book, which I actually listened to parts of it again on the flight out here. But it's really great if you want to understand what's happening all around us in college football. But you're an Alabama guy. You have publicly admitted that you're a Roll Tide attendee and graduate. Yep. What's your take on Kalen DeBoer right now? Every time he opens his mouth, it just seems like he is just, lambasted by all the pundits, including one of the biggest ones in the country. Yeah. Give me your take on DeBoer right now. Should he just be quiet and let it and wait to get on the field to do his talking?
I think in the case of DeBoer, I think that he's really in a no-win situation with the media. I mean, coming in following Saban is just incredibly difficult, and I think he's darned if he does, darned if he doesn't. And I think the man is a good football coach, and he's just going to do it his way. So I think he's just the popular whipping boy right now. And I think DeBoer is a good coach. I think he knows what he's doing. I think he's got the program turned in the right direction. My lane is not doing predictions on records yet. A lot smarter people can do that than me. But I just think he's just a popular whipping boy. I saw Stephen A. I happened to be on Feinbaum earlier this week, and, Feinbaum is talking about it also. But, it's, as the head ball coach Spurrier used to say, it's talking season, and he's just a popular subject in talking. And, pretty soon they're going to spot the ball, and then we'll find out. But one other piece, he's got a big piece of property waiting on him on Buyout Island, because, $70 million will get a corner of that island for you if you look. So if it goes bad, he's still okay. But I personally, again, I try to stay out of the team thing, just to stay neutral along the business side of things. But as an Alabama alum, an Alabama fan, I think we need to give the guy a chance.
Yeah, I hear you, because the firestorm at SEC Media Days, when responding to the question of to be a success at Alabama, do you have to win a national championship? And he did not mean that he didn't want to win a championship, but he said that's not our focus. Well, they jumped all over that like he doesn't even want to win a national championship. That was completely out of context. He was basically pivoting to the Saban process answer.
Exactly.
That there's steps required before you win a championship. But it's just like piranhas in the water when he goes for a dip. I've never seen anything like it.
I don't think so either, and it's just popular. But I actually have seen something like it. My sophomore year at Alabama, Bear Bryant died and was replaced by Ray Perkins. And even though there wasn't the social media and all that now, man, it was brutal. And and Perkins took the tower down, Bears tower down. He was extremely unpopular. So we've seen this story before. It's just magnified a lot more. So it's really hard to follow a legend. And I think, give the man time. I think he's a good football coach.
Mike, tell folks where they can get Agent Confidential, because it's a must-read if you're a college football fan.
Thank you. It is on Amazon. You can get it in Kindle and paperback, or on Audible, where I did the Audible myself, Kip, that you listened to on the way out. Yeah. And the Audible has been very popular. It's also on Apple Books, and I would encourage everybody to listen to the Agent Confidential podcast. We're putting some good stuff out, and in fact, later this weekend, I'm putting out a more detailed look at what's happened in the Protect College Sports Act this week. So look at that on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So appreciate the plug. The book is selling well, but going into the season, everyone, it's a great read to show you what's happening behind the curtain in college sports.
Yeah, and boy, that behind that curtain is an active environment, let me tell you. And I don't see, when the curtain opens, I'm not so sure the show's ready for prime time. I really believe, Mike, that some of the bigger schools are going to have to break away and form their own entity. I've said it for 5 years. I'm continuing to say it because I don't think one size fits all in this situation.
No, it doesn't, and that's still coming. And the act that's in front of Congress that I think has got a very slim chance of passing. Actually, it doesn't prevent that. So I still think that we're going to see the super conference break away and see 48 to 60 teams in that. The big issue there will be who ends up at the top, Petiti or Sankey, and that'll be interesting to see.
Well, Mike, I was thrilled you got the opportunity to be on, deservedly so, on the Feinbaum show this week. Hopefully that get the word out there more. But I'm gonna hang my hat on the fact that we had you long before Paul did. So we were first. We were the trendsetter here.
You were, and I am so grateful to you for getting the word out there and starting to see really a bigger following out there. People are interested in the business of college football. Kip, I think I told a lot of people that there's a lot of people that can pick winners and losers and conferences and playoff teams. There's a lot fewer that can tell you what's happening in the business. So I'm going to stick to that lane as to what's happening behind the curtain. So everybody pick up the book and take a look. It'll give you a good view into it.
Mike, we can't thank you enough. Always great having you on. Have a great weekend, and just a couple of weeks until football. Can't wait.
Can't wait. All right, Kip, enjoy your trip out there. Safe travels, and everybody have a great rest of the show.
I appreciate you. 205-834-9450, the telephone number. Agent Confidential, Mike Chaudron, joining us for his extremely interesting takes and reports. Again, if you're into college football right now, you need to understand what's going on. Pick up Agent Confidential where your books are sold. So, John, any perspectives from the conversation with Mike today?
Yeah, there is a good bit, and as much as I would love to give you mine, I'm pretty sure Lisa's husband would like to give you a piece of his mind.
Well, I'm sure he would. I'm always glad to share the outstanding cranial activity of Lisa's husband. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Although John's would probably be better. I usually always like what John has to say, and following Agent Confidential is not easy. He kind of lays it out and nails it. I didn't take exception to anything he said to you in that conversation. That was a good dialogue you just had, Kip.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I'm glad Paul finally got around to having him on the show this week because, once again, I'm very pleased that we got on that first and have been featuring him, and I just think it's such a pertinent part of the story now, and I know with your profession, you've got to be just amazed at all the goings on here, and so anyway, I'll turn it back over to you, Lisa's husband, for what your perspective is on this Saturday morning.